Hello there, this is Kendo Nagasaki, Peter Thornley, the man behind the mask, and I am watching Cheap Shot Entertainment this afternoon and this morning and tonight. Hope you all join me. Bye!
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is awesome! Hello and welcome, wrestling fans, to Cheap Shot Entertainment. This is your retro wrestling reviews segment, and we're going through the year 2023, which can only mean one thing. 20 years ago to this day, WWE Armageddon 2003 was happening. And obviously, it was a pay-per-view back then. It wasn't a premium live event. It was a pay-per-view. And on December the 14th, WWE rolled into the Orlando Arena, or the TD Waterhouse Center. And it is the 4th edition of the Armageddon pay-per-view. It is a Raw exclusive this time, as the brand split is very much in effect, and it was attended by 12,672 Raw fans, and we're going to look now at the country was the United States, obviously, which you don't need to know. And it was, of course, on demand before the network, and it is available on the network as well. The music theme song is The End by Jim Johnson, and in a turn of events, we've got quite a few games that this particular pay-per-view set appears on. 2K15, WrestleMania 21, SmackDown vs. Raw, and Day of Reckoning. So we've got quite a mixture of different games that this Armageddon set appears on, and when you see the set, it is brilliant. Just at the start of the show, everything sets on fire, which is just insane. They wouldn't even try and do that now. We're just going to go through, before we get into the main part of the video podcast, that the pre-show was on Sunday Night Heat, of course, and it was Rico defeating John Heidenreich to start the show. We move swiftly on. Obviously, JR and the King are on commentary, and they are introduced after Lillian Garcia gives a performance of America the Beautiful, and that is in between that we've got the amazing package, the promo package that WWE used to produce in terms of the namesake of the show and saying this is what's going to happen, and it was great. Opening package, spot on. Can't be said for the opening match, though. I didn't really care for this one. It obviously been built up from the Survivor Series, where Mark Henry eliminated Booker T with the World's Strongest Slam. Since then, Teddy Long has started accompanying the World's Strongest Man down to the ring, getting in his head. You know, why does the man keep you down? That was his thing at the time. And Booker T's just being Booker T. He's very face at this point in time as well, after his massive feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin during the invasion, etc., or just after the invasion, rather. And it was pretty standard match, contrasting styles, which was interesting. Mark Henry more sort of grounded. Obviously, the power game comes into play, whereas Booker T does have the power, but he also has the speed and the agility as well as having to contend with Teddy Long on the outside. But it would be after 2 scissor kicks, and no one gets out of 2 scissor kicks, of course, that Booker T would pick up the win after an okay match. And I'm just going to say it was okay. It didn't have anything flashy in it. I think the flashiest thing was the scissor kicks, because Mark Henry did ground and pound on Booker T to have most of this match, realistically. To get to the end point. Like I say, it would be Booker T who would pick up the victory in this one. And I'm going to give this one, it's not a great opening. I'm going to give it a 2 cheap shots out of 5. But we would, if I remember correctly, we would move on to better matches than this one. It's always difficult to start. I'm going to give them a props for doing so, but usually the starter match is one that you want the crowd to be fully behind. And although they are behind Booker T and against Mark Henry, there is some bits that are just missing in this match for me. So 2 cheap shots out of 5. We go into the back now with Eric Bischoff saying, "That's not how I wanted to start the show." Christian and Jericho come in and thank Mr. Bischoff for setting up the War of the Sexes, I think it's called, this one, as they go against Trish and Lita in a match. I did say earlier that the matches would get better, but there you go. And just as that's happening, Mick Foley makes his entrance. His entrance theme hits, and he makes his way down to the ring. With Mick Foley's entrance music hitting, and he makes his way down to the ring, only to cut a promo saying that he would usually be in Long Island with his buddy Chris, mentioned in his book Have a Nice Day, watching the pay-per-view in Long Island, but unfortunately today he's right here in Orlando, Florida. Cheap Pop, of course, is the order of the day, and I'm not talking about Panda Pop either. That is a reference for the UK fans. Anyway, he wants to have a party. It's Christmas after all. He invites someone down to come and join the party. Who would that be? Stacy Keibler, of course, getting the fans right behind him, because as Kid Rock would be singing on her way down to the ring, she's got the legs. And we almost get a party, and Evolution's music hits. It is Randy Orton accompanied to the ring by Ric Flair, and he would come down and give Mick Foley a piece of his mind and say, look, you need to get yourself ready for our match later on, because Mick Foley would of course be the special guest referee. It is at that moment that Mick Foley says, "It sounds like you're ready to go right now." So he takes off his jacket and reveals a rather sharp white shirt with spray painted black lines down it in terms of being a referee. He says, well, we might as well do the match now. So he calls out RVD, the Intercontinental Champion, and we get the match straight away. And I'm happy to say that this match is much better than the first, but of course it always would be, because of it being Randy Orton when he was around 23. So he was in the shape of his life, prime, at that point in time. And of course he was accompanied by the wily Ric Flair, who actually looks decent at this point in time as well. Talking about it being 20 years ago, It is quite weird, but yeah, we get the match. Mick Foley is the special guest referee. RVD is the reigning defending Intercontinental Champion, and Randy Orton gets his shot at the gold. This match would be one that went back and forth, with RVD getting the early rub of the green, sending Randy Orton to the outside early, sending him scurrying to the waiting arms of Ric Flair, who would give him a pep talk and say, look, you are Randy Orton, you are the legend killer, you don't need to be scurrying away from anybody. And so he gets back in the ring, takes charge of the match, and starts taking out the legs of Rob Van Dam, who uses his feet quite a lot, actually, because it's a case of Rob Van Dam, that he's being that kind of wrestler. He's a striker. He is quick. He uses his body, and obviously you can use that against Rob Van Dam if you've got the right people behind you in terms of giving you pep talks and how to actually do that. And so Randy Orton does. Ric Flair would get involved a couple of times here. Mick Foley taking Ric Flair out the first time. RVD taking Ric Flair out the second time. And obviously Mick Foley, being the guest referee, did not want to disqualify anybody, because it was a championship match. You know, no one wants to see it end in a disqualification. But of course, as I'm learning very sharply with being involved in the wrestling industry, if a referee actually sees you cheating, it's a case of, why aren't you being disqualified? I think sometimes you can gloss over it, but it is all about timing. And Ric Flair, yeah, he probably didn't care, to be honest with you. It was in the highlights package before this match that Randy Orton did get disqualified, and again he didn't give a crap that he was being disqualified, because he just wanted to create the damage. And it's a bold move to have that as part of your character, because obviously you can't use that too much. And Randy Orton doesn't, to be fair. He did get a helping hand to pick up the championship on this occasion, but it's all part of the Evolution way. And your new champion after an RKO out of nowhere is Randy Orton. Like I said, this match is much, much better. I'm going to go with a 4 cheap shots out of 5 for this one. Really enjoyed it. It was a good contest between two very, very good wrestlers who had, again, contrasting styles, but both had the quickness and the moveset in order to pull this match off to a hilt. We move on to the next match. So, to the third match, it is Eric Bischoff's Battle of the Sexes. It is Christian and Chris Jericho versus Trish Stratus and Lita. And the storyline that goes along with this match is that Christian and Jericho had a bet to see who would get lucky first for $1 Canadian. And they were being nice to them, getting them on their side, doing everything that douchebag blokes do, and give us all a bad name, I've got to say. But for storyline purposes, it worked really well. And let me tell you something, I really enjoyed this match. Like I say, as I have been in the industry for around 2 years, I've started to see more of these kind of matches. This was a novelty back in 2003. In 2023, It's no longer a novelty. You quite often get the guys going against the girls and the girls coming out on top, which is great because that is showing that, there's equal opportunities in the wrestling industry. Sadly, there's a lot of other bits that I won't mention on this podcast now, but this match is great. I really enjoyed it, and the reason that I really enjoyed it is because Jericho was playing the sort of he was playing a character that was regretting his decision to do what he's ended up doing with his buddy Christian, and having that bet, and he had genuine feelings for Trish and all this kind of stuff, and there was a lot of regret throughout the whole thing. He wouldn't hit Trish, but he did quite often go for Lita, for example. But on top of that, the ladies got their stuff in. They were given a really good rub of the green here, and they were, on top of this match for quite long periods of time because, they were given that opportunity, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And you couldn't have any better two opponents than Christian and Jericho in that sense, because they are safe workers. They are willing to do anything to put on a good match, and they often do put on good matches. I actually can't think of any match in recent history that Christian or Chris Jericho have not been really good in, and that's, like I say, that's recent. Christian is the TNT champion, I believe, now on AEW. I don't really watch it. And obviously Jericho was the first ever AEW champion, so he was putting on really good matches as well. And these guys are, at least approaching their 50s, which gives me a little bit of hope in terms of actually having a match. Although I did have a match last week. So, yeah, these things, at this point in time, these guys were in the 20s. So, no better people to go against than Jericho and Christian, and kudos to them. But I'm going to give the props to the ladies here because they did everything. They sold everything. There was obviously that play on the strength difference as well, and the fact that Christian and Jericho had to cheat to get the advantage in this match. There was there was a lot of that power game. There was a couple of Hurricane Runners and all that kind of stuff. Some near falls for the ladies as well, which is great because it just shows how the industry has come on in a short space of time, circa 2003. But unfortunately, it would be Jericho who would cost Trish and Lita the chance to win this match, because Jericho was having his regrets. He picked Trish up off the floor, having had Christian hit her with a big move, and you could obviously tell that he was saying he was sorry and all that kind of stuff, but Christian doesn't give a crap. So at that point, he would roll Trish up and get the 1, 2, 3. Christian celebrates like he's won the Super Bowl, and Jericho still has those thoughts where he perhaps shouldn't have had this match ever, and he should never have made that bet. But I'm going to go ahead and give this match a 4 cheap shots out of 5 because I thoroughly enjoyed this match, the structure of it, the way it was done, and everything about this match, including the people that were in it. And that's a big shout. Moving on to the next match, it features Shawn Michaels and he is going against Batista, who is accompanied once again by Ric Flair to the ring. Another match with a contrast of styles. Obviously, Batista being strong, powerful, he is also quick. Shawn Michaels coming back from an injury a couple of years earlier. Still, obviously in a lot of pain with the back injury. He can't ever shake something that big. But he is going for it, and he's doing really well at this point in time, 2 years into his second run with the WWE. And going against Batista, who is the beast. He is an absolute monster when he was with Evolution. And to say that it was not supposed to be Batista that was going to be part of Evolution, it almost seems just insane now. You can't think of Evolution without Batista, and he proves that here. He's going in fairly level-headed, but it doesn't take long for Batista to lose his head, become the angry beast, the animal that he is billed as. Shawn Michaels frustrating him all the while until Batista finally does snap and gets the better of the high flyer Shawn Michaels, who's having a tough time against the power advantage that Batista has here. Batista, like I said, using his power, whereas Shawn Michaels is always looking for that opportunity, always looking for that opening. He does drop an elbow. He does go for the sweet chin music, and he doesn't hit the sweet chin music, only for Batista to decimate the Heartbreak Kid. Of course, Ric Flair does get involved in this match. He gets a clock to the jaw for his trouble. He's not having a good night in terms of getting beaten up, is Ric Flair as a manager on the outside of the ring. But it would be Shawn Michaels who would come away with the victory, leading to a larger storyline throughout the night with a sweet chin music, with Shawn Michaels just falling on top of his prone opponent and getting the 1, 2, 3. Again, I really enjoyed this match, but I'm going to give it a 3.5 cheap shots out of 5. Because I feel like because of the long-term storytelling throughout this show, that it was cut a little bit short. We then get Maven's music. Batista's still in the ring. He's still pacing about. He's still really angry that he lost the match, as Ric Flair tells him they didn't win the match. Maven's music hits. He comes out and he's like, "Oh yeah, woo, yeah, I'm here," and walks down to the ring with a degree of concern on his face because the animal is still in the ring. He waits on the outside, and Matt Hardy's music hits, and he would come down, attack Maven, throw him to the wolves, so to speak. Batista taking his frustration out on the upstart from the original version of NXT known as Tough Enough. They did try and bring that back a little while ago. Didn't quite work because obviously they had NXT, and obviously NXT started out the same sort of style as Tough Enough, but then became a brand of its own and just became developmental. So rather than it being a TV show, a reality TV show, which was big at the time, and just becoming the NXT brand, which is much better. Batista lays out Maven with a Batista bomb, and of course Matt Hardy is declared the winner. But he's not having it that way. He wants the referee to count the pinfall. So he covers Maven, gets the referee to ring the bell, count the pinfall, and announce him as the winner, because the referee said, no, he can't compete, not in this condition. Matt Hardy's not having that. He's version 1. So I can't really give that match a rating, but it is good to sort of have that segue, as we've had a couple of really good matches beforehand. Next up is the Tag Team Turmoil. So we move on to the next match, and it is the Tag Team Turmoil match. And we start off with La Resistance and Hurricane and Rosie. Two very contrasting styles. Obviously, the La Resistance have tasted tag team gold in the WWE before, but the team now is Rob Conway and Renee Dupree. So a bit of a change of personnel for La Resistance, and that does show in this one. Not quite the chemistry that Renee Dupree had with Sylvain Rognier, but they still managed to make it work. Not well enough, it seems, as Hurricane and Rosie do get the pin on La Resistance with a flying splash from Rosie's shoulders. And let's remember that Rosie is currently a superhero in training, or shit for short. I always found that really, really funny. Next team, Jindrak and Cade would come down to the ring. Well, they'd say they come down to the ring. They would attack Hurricane and Rosie from the crowd as they were looking up the ramp, and subsequently get the pin. So Hurricane and Rosie are out next. We would then get Venus and Storm coming down to the ring with the ladies, of course. Val Venus trying to make Lance Storm seem less boring by bringing out two lovely ladies with them, and they stand round ringside, and quite frankly I would be really annoyed if I'd paid for front row seats, because I wouldn't be able to see anything. However, would get lady parts instead. Anyway, they would go out next, and they would be eliminated by Jindrak and Cade. Good performance here by the young team. Of course, Lance Cade is no longer with us. Mark Jindrak was an original thought for the Evolution faction, but it was decided that because Orton and Jindrak had previous, and they were good mates and they messed around, that it would not be a good fit, and therefore Batista would be added. And who would have thought that would work? But it did, and you wouldn't even think of it any different now. So we next get Venus and Storm get eliminated. Like I said, we next get the Dudleys, the Bubba Ray and Devon, the current tag team champions, defending their title in this gauntlet style match, or if you've ever played an old school WWE game, a slobber knocker, as it were. Although you can never do tag team ones of those, which would have been really cool, actually. Anyway, Dudleys come down next. They eliminate Jindrak and Cade after a little scuffle. Managed to get the 3D and the pin. We next get the last team in the gauntlet match in the Tag Team Turmoil, which is Scott Steiner and Test. What a year they've had. Going against each other, Steiner falling off the ring, obviously knocked a bit of sense into him because he's now teaming with Test, who is the greatest wrestling superstar ever. Incidentally, I really did like Test. I thought he had a lot going for him, but he slipped into circumstances out of his control with the whole Stephanie McMahon Triple H thing, and just sort of got left by the wayside. But in reality, he had the look, he had the athleticism, and he had the power to go a long way, but it didn't happen. Scott Steiner and Test would show that they are really trying to have some chemistry, although that again would backfire when Test would boot Scott Steiner in the face, leading to the Dudleys getting the 3D and the win. Seemingly, they thought that they had won tag team turmoil. However, Bischoff comes down to the ring and says, No. In order to win tag team turmoil, you have to beat all the teams in tag team turmoil. And then we see Batista and Ric Flair coming down to the ring representing Evolution. And the comments made earlier by Ric Flair coming to fruition in terms of them leaving with a title around their waist, because it would be Batista and Ric Flair who would leave as the champions from Armageddon and Tag Team Turmoil as they beat down the Dudleys. Batista gets the Batista bomb on Devon, whilst Bubba Ray is trapped in the figure 4 and there's nothing they can do about it. Pretty sure there's rules in this match, but obviously they went out of the window as Evolution came down to the ring. And you can see why people started getting a little bit annoyed with these things, but then eventually did come round to Evolution and start believing the hype, so to speak. So we get new tag team champions here on Raw through Armageddon, through the tag team turmoil, and so far a clean sweep for Evolution. Next up at Armageddon, we have a women's title match featuring the women's champion Molly Holly defending her championship against Ivory. This one was a blink and you'll miss it kind of affair, which is utterly disgusting considering that it's Ivory and Molly Holly, two women who could vastly be considered as starting the actual women's Evolution way back in 2003 and earlier. But it would be Molly Holly who would retain the championship with a Molly go round on Ivory. Like I say, blink and you'll miss it. It is a shame. Because I think these two could have had a decent match given the time, but I'm not gonna be harsh on them. I'm gonna give it a 2.5 cheap shots out of 5. They did everything they could with the time that they were given and told a decent story. That being said, it was billed as hold on a second, we've got an impromptu match coming. I don't think it gave the fans enough time to get ready for this match by any means, but that's WWE for you in the year 2003. We move on to the next match. So there's only one more match left, and that would be the multi-man triple threat match between the current reigning defending champion Goldberg, Triple H and Kane, and that is for the World Heavyweight Championship. Incidentally, I will say this. This match is probably the best match of 2003 involving Goldberg and Triple H, simply because it had that extra element in it. There is the stare down at the beginning, and I think that's a lost art in professional wrestling these days, much like the lockup. There's no establishment of what the storyline is, no stare downs, things like that. But that is definitely something that should frequent wrestling. Not frequent, but obviously be used in certain situations. I did enjoy the stare down. It established little bits about the story, the long rivalry between Triple H and Goldberg, and obviously Kane saying, hey, I'm in this match as well. And the match gets started as Triple H and Kane start to beat up Goldberg after being hit from behind by Triple H. And Goldberg eventually gets the upper hand on the two heels here, but he gets put through a table for his trouble. Kane gets smacked in the head with a chair as Triple H brings in the first weapon, thrown into the stairs just after he's put Goldberg through the table for the second time, because the first time it didn't break. And Goldberg laying out. It would then be Kane who would say, hold on a second, you betrayed me, and start beating up Triple H. Goldberg would come in with the quick spear, and that would be broken up. Eventually we would get interference from Evolution, of course, and that would lead to another near fall. However, it wasn't until Kane managed to hit the chokeslam on Goldberg, and Batista came down to the ring to stop Kane breaking up the pin, that Triple H would crawl over the prone, lifeless body of the champion and get the 1, 2, 3. We have a new champion, 8-time champion, world heavyweight champion, Triple H. A year-long feud that culminates at the end of the year. I enjoyed this match, and I'm going to give it another 4 cheap shots out of 5. I thought it was a really good triple threat match. It had the right amount of, let's face it, triple threat matches don't have any rules. So it had interference where it needed it. It used chairs and tables and stairs sparingly, but they did get used. One thing that I've noted here actually is that they did not use a sledgehammer. Go figure. But yeah, there was no sledgehammer used in this match, but Triple H wins. Like I say, 4 cheap shots out of 5. Overall, Armageddon, great way to finish the year for WWE. Good pay-per-view. Some down points, some very good high points, and overall we get to see Evolution celebrating at the top of the ramp with all the gold. And yeah, that's good. We go into 2004 with all new champions on Raw, apart from the women's champion, who is still Molly Holly. Yeah, Armageddon. Good pay-per-view. Anyway, if you enjoyed this review, please do follow the podcast and the podcast on YouTube as well. And we'll be going into 2004. We'll still be doing all of the retro reviews for you. That is Lacey the Cat. If you like Lacey and you like cats, drop a like and leave a comment. And yeah, going into 2004 with new champions, as I say. Anyway, have a great festive period and a great new year, and I will see you next time, wrestling fans. Thank you very much for joining us on Cheap Shot Entertainment. Goodbye.